Hari Mara, Hari Mara, Tenara Katu Katua, Inga Ewe, Nui Tanura, Tenara Katu Katua. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this place of learning. Yeah, Robina, Kodi Takawingwa, Pepe Kiranga, Mwanga, Wainui, Awa, and Mohua. So welcome to this presentation here of bioregional food sovereignty. And I want to start by saying, why am I using the word sovereignty? And I want to also, before that, start with my feeling of slight sadness that Punami Skelton doesn't seem to be here. And we made this sort of arrangement long distance for me to share this, the session with her. But you have a message? There was an opportunity. Yeah. Okay, she's here in spirit. Let's just say that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And so I heard this word sovereignty used in the context of Tēnaranga Tiratanga and various iwi around the country. And it was quite a political force. Like, we are standing for our freedom. We are standing for our rights, our culture, our food, and our seeds to be in our hands, with no other domination or no other influence over them. And we do not stand for having to be dependent on external food systems that are corporate-driven, agribusiness, unhealthy, and that are actually outside of our hands. And then I also have come across it in the slow food movement, and those that are calculating food miles, and particularly with Indigenous peoples around the world with Viva Campesina. So it's a word that's used a lot globally, but we don't use it so much in this country. We more use food resilience, which is like able to withstand all of the influence, the adverse effects that are impacting on our food. It might be the climate extremes that are affecting our crops, or it might be the vulnerability because the food's out of the supermarkets and we don't know when the shelves are going to get filled with that particular kind of food again. And particularly, like, I've had the impact of the Christchurch earthquake, we've had the Golden Bay floods and landslides and so on, and we have needed to be food resilient. We've found out how we haven't been. And it's really been a motivation to strengthen our links food-wise across the Nelson bioregion. And then we have the word food security. And that's a United Nations term which is used particularly in the third world countries, where people like in Palestine right now are like starving because the food aid isn't getting, what's just trickling in, what's being stopped. And the term would be, those people are food insecure. So in food security, it doesn't really be too relevant about the source of the food or the value of the food, so long as people have food and to fill their belly. So, you know, rice drops or maize drops from the sky by USAID or something like that, if they're genetically engineered crops, the main thing is, you know, the governments think as long as they've got food in their bellies. So there's these terms that are thrown around a bit. And for my work in Aotearoa, New Zealand, I am going for food sovereignty. And that means that when I've been doing workshops, I think I must have worked in every province around this country over the years. I've just finished doing in autumn a North Island tour, and previous to that a South Island tour, working in a lot of different communities. And usually it's somewhere where there's a person who's a Kai coordinator for that area, or there's an organization that can pull some funding, or that basically has that that kaupapa for that area. And it's usually where there's more vulnerable people, and people depend on food banks, that there's the motivation, and it's a bit of a stopgap measure. And to me, that's adequate, but it's way got a gap between where we're aiming. And so you'll see in a chart I'm going to show you on the slide, you'll see this word rural-urban link. So part of it is like, what does the city need? What can the city provide? And how can the rural farms and lifestyle blocks support that? Like, how can we look at it as a whole region, as a food bowl, as a food basket? And we think, like, as permaculture designers, for one land with fences around, and with the owners of that land or the renters of that land having their own purpose, their own dreams and visions, and their own practical limitations when we're doing design work for that land, and we're doing the design interview, the client interview, or some sort of holistic goal setting mandala. We are designing for them, with them, and for the consideration first and foremost of the natural environment that they're actually coexisting with. So that's one property. If we take the perspective of being up in a lovely hot air balloon or a big winged bird like the kahu, and we look down and we don't see those fences anymore, but we actually look down and see the bioregional boundaries, like the rivers or the backdrop of the mountains, or perhaps it can be very distinct forest types or the ocean. We're looking at the bioregional boundaries, and the eyes are like really wide, and the vision is comprehensive, and we're seeing our bioregion. We're looking from the perspective of our bioregion, our whole bioregion, as a food basket, a food bowl. And where are the areas, like in the book Design with Nature by Ian McHugh, where are the areas that you actually say, that's not useful, that's an escarpment, that's a built-up industrial area, and you basically block out the areas that are no-go for food production. Like, for example, in Golden Bay, where I live, we have Pākehī soils, you know, in Milnthorpe area, or in Puramahoe area, or in Onekaka area. They're tough soils. You know, it's not like you're going to start with those soils. You're going to start in East Taka, where the soils are lovely, where it's drier. So that's where we can push the edge of grain in our area. So as citizens occupying a bioregion, we have our own, what I call super productive home gardens, and the trading with our neighbours and our immediate locality. And that's our most immediate strength in vulnerable times. And then we also have our bioregional perspective. And I'll just say right now, before I start the PowerPoint and talk with these resources, that I feel really privileged to live in Moho, Golden Bay, because there is a Moho. It's a long vision, but it's we're getting there, 2042. And it's been several years of community engagement under different topics, all the sort of themes we need to be considering to be resilient as a bioregion. So it's the vision. It's what are we doing? What do we have? What resources do we have? What skill base do we have, and what don't we have? And it's all put together. And this is a really strong group that's also peeled off into segments as well and come back again. That's a vision for our whole area. And I think I want to pick this up right now. In the workshops that I run, which are usually usually 2 days, sometimes one, people from all walks of life to do with food in a region, what I get them to do is to do a holistic vision, to do a simple statement, which is in capturing the people, the representative of the people of their area, if they're going for sustainability, resilience, and they're going for living in a place that they feel, they can root themselves in, because it's come in. By the way, I'll take a pause in a minute, but just scatter yourselves around. So this is when we were in Wanaka, And this is what they came up with, this group, from people representing council to people who attended food banks to growers to community development workers around Kai. Southern Lakes Food Resilience is a collaborative, regenerative food system which nourishes our whole community and enables future generations to thrive. So this is a consent statement by the people in that workshop, and the councillors took it back to their, the councillors represented took it back to their council, people took it back to their farms, etc., etc. And in every case, and then we had feedback after a couple of weeks, and this got endorsed. So this is a start point to adhere anybody thinking, well, what binds us together as a food system? And I think I'll just go from here because it's just coming to me, to Ngā Ura Ora and the Kapiti Coast. It's a story which so inspires me, and it's not about kai, it's about kai for birds, actually. It's about the kakariki, the kaka. And it was started off, I'm just talking about community development here because my work with food and permaculture community development is like intertwined. So it was an initiative, and the vision, like I read out, that was about kai, but this is like a big overarching vision about nature. So to once again hear the dawn chorus of the kakariki on the Kapiti Coast, because pai means perch and kakariki green. They used to see, you know, in the old times, where before the farmland was cleared, they used to see this green and this resounding dawn chorus. So then Kapiti Island was the attempt to make it predator-free, the attempt to make it and revegetate it with trees that were raised by kids in schools, funded with the greenhouses and shade houses funded by business, you know, collectively vision and collectively strategic planned. And the farms on the Kapiti Coast and facing the highway and the ocean, as many of could be, put into QE2 covenants. So it's multi-strategy pulling together under one vision. And who could argue with that one vision? So when you're working at a bioregional level, the aim to have a vision, even if you have to go up higher and higher and embrace nature and just kais on the side, sort of, that everybody can be part of. Lindy. Okay, so I think we'll start here and we'll come to this sort of mandala shape in the middle. Yep. Yeah, so that's what I was speaking about. Consider your entire bioregion as a plentiful food basket and food bowl. Next. So this is also what I was talking about. Know your bioregion, your boundaries, and the ecology that dwells there, and do the typical same thing you do in a permaculture property with sector, site analysis, hydrology, etc. And when I work with different groups around the country, I give them quite a task list and to get various maps from hydrology to soils and so on, and information. And usually they go to the council. The council's got it in that cupboard. It's got dusty, and they, you know, there's an old computer program. It's not joined up with that one, and they're all in silos. And it's been impossible, any case, to get just, oh yeah, this is everything you want. So that's a service to your council, and they need to give those resources to free. Next. Okay, so what I've got here in a A3 is just a chart which has got these icons on it that you see on the screen. And these icons represent the first two different food groups. Like this is primary produce, and here is value added, or one could call it processed foods. And down below it's systems, you know, it's actually core distribution systems, or places that you get your seeds from, or your school gardens, and your also nurseries, things like that. So what resources? And this happens, you can only see a tiny bit of it at the top, with a model. So we lay a model out on the ground. I'm telling you this in case you want to use these methods. model out on the ground, and everybody has a bowl of all these icons. And this is them broken down a little bit more. You can have a look at this after. And then we basically open it up, and everybody gets to put down the icons category by category, and and someone's typing like crazy, and we're learning so much information, which properties changed hands, who's joined with who to form a cooperative for nut processing and selling as a collective, who's had babies, who's left the area, what area has been put into a covenant, all sorts of things that are peripheral to actually finding out our local food inventory. That's what we're doing. And at the end of this, everyone gets a copy, and we put it in the library and gets it added to or the whole food shops and things like that. But it starts with these icons. Next. These are what we have in the center, community food sovereignty. And all of these headings around here are what's at the top here. For example, I'm looking at one called Securing Our Seed Sources, one's called Wild Harvest, and so on. And I've chosen 6 of these to show you on the PowerPoint with examples. So this takes us around the country somewhat. And so here we have, for example, we'll move on. This came about through, we have what's called the Localizing Food Project under Earthcare Education Aotearoa. That's a charitable trust myself and some others have together. And we went around the country 2012 to 2014 and ran a whole bunch of workshops. And as well, we filmed what we saw was exemplary projects. Hey, Julia. Hey, Lindy. If there's anybody else who could have captured on there. Anyhow, you'll know who you are. So with this, and that's where these categories came out of. It's like, there's another example of rural urban link that's doing really well. So next. And so the first one, surprise, surprise, is super productive home gardens. Super productive home gardens. Not just a home garden that's just enough to get on your maybe 20% on your table food for the family, but like building in abundance. And Linda will know this one. This is Ted and Gretchen's place in North Street in Nelson. And this was a design that was done for that after site and sector analysis. And where were the opportunities to push the edge a bit? And this is in the center there is the greenhouse, and this is the edge there of the fence, and the grapes growing on the top of the fence catching the northern sun and so on. So the aim for a super productive home garden is to grow a little extra. And in Project Littleton in Christchurch, they actually have a project called this Grow a Little Extra. And the Grow a Little Extra is people just grow more than what they need. And in their case, it comes to the community centre. It goes into the kitchen to be prepared by volunteers with everybody else's Grow a Little Extra. And then it goes it's like a Meals on Wheels. A little red van goes around Littleton delivering meals to the elderly people that had the source of most of the food from people's gardens. Grow a Little Extra farmers markets. I'm not sure if it happens right now, but Otaki used to have one stall at their farmers market where various growers would bring a little extra, and collectively they made a whole market stall, and people earned some extra money for the week, and it was manned or womaned, round month by month, different people. And there's no reason apart from the food bill. The ways of getting under the table with that. Okay, and so Grow a Little Extra for the food bank. And Troy, we've started consciously doing that. We had last year so much abundance of avos, we were wheeling wheelbarrows of avocados full to our local food bank. It was such a joy to do that. And then, so we've just been aware, what extra do we have for the food bank? What extra can we grow? And to give to the school. And part of the key to that is become a specialist in your favorite crop, or even the species. If you love tawa or riwai, and the Maori potatoes, you know, me, ko wini wini is mine. It's like, oh, ko wini wini, let's just me grow as much as I can to share out and to feed people and turn them onto this wonderful flavor of Māori potato. But someone else might like tutukuru or something else. And so it's also like tomatoes, you know, Russian red, and, you know, that's the one I like to grow and things like that. And someone else might like to grow somewhere. So it's about sharing and trading. And you don't have to know everything or grow everything. Yes, thank you. Next. Yep, so surplus share. Next. Yeah, community gardens everywhere. And I'm just going to show you a few examples of different types of community gardens around the country. The main thing is the integration, and with community gardens, I wouldn't start thinking about zone one very much, you know, the sort of intimate daily needs for tending or harvesting when you go out your back door. No, community gardens, I'd say zone two system, where you've got your small animals, your fruit trees, your main crop veggies. Next. And so, yep, this is, I'd like to honour Robert and Robin Guyton for this open orchards concept that started down in Riverton. And open orchards got three prongs to it. One is heirloom fruit trees and propagation of heirloom fruit trees, including learning how to propagate and how to graft onto rootstock. And that means the fruit trees that do well in your area, that have got stories, that have got history, that gets passed on with those fruit trees and nut trees, then that's part of the open orchards concept, and they do it so well down Southland. And then the other part of the open orchards concept is that you are you're planting and harvesting and tending and you kaitiaki of those trees with like a little team. And we've got an adult, middle-aged children and a younger child in those teams. And yeah, so it's all orchards everywhere, usually on streets, usually on verges, but for harvesting for everybody. Next. All right, so this is in Littleton. And typically, and those of you who are natural designer educators or trained or want to dabble in it, it's a really cool thing to do. Actually, there was a workshop here called Designer Food Forest Day. Did any of you go to it? Yeah, anyhow. So this would be an example of that. It wasn't my method, but here you have a workshop for people in your area. It's kind of like a letterbox drop style. And it's great to have a bit of funding for it, or people pay a little bit. And you run the workshop for design, and in the end, you folks implement the design. And so this is us Foster Terrace. It's a vacant section. It was the people who live in and around Foster Terrace, and they got to know each other better through that. It's in someone's living room. And then we went out onto the property and we laid out the design with stakes, and we did swale markings on contour and so on. What these are, and yeah, together we designed, and then we put in our order and we planted and tended. So it's a community-owned thing. Next. Yep, another area I work with, it was in Rotorua, Hannah's Bay Reserve, and here we have this vast parkland where people walk their dogs, and there's a wetland at the beginning. And this wasn't my initiative, but it just started with this little well there at night. The council would not give permission, would not set up water systems, and it was essential. So they went and dug a well at night and put down a bucket. And there, that well was there for about a month. And then someone from the council spied it, and the gardens were starting and flourishing. And they got water from the council because their initiative. So, yep, it's kind of like guerrilla gardening. It's like guerrilla welling, guerrilla putting in guerrilla water systems. Guerrilla, wow, yeah. Yeah, there you go. And so anyhow, there we are, council dumps off chips and topsoil and all sorts to them now, or used to, I'm not sure anymore these days. And yeah, there's a lot to say about that project, but just want to give that example. Next. This one is Wellington. It is Innermost Community Gardens, and this is typical what happens around the country, but you've got to watch out for contamination of soil. So it's sports grounds becoming community gardens. And in this case, it was Mount Victoria. I think too many of the old people have popped off who were lawn bowlers. So the men and the women amalgamated. And this used to be, I think, the women's centre. It became a community centre in the middle. And we had university students and old timers and radicals and, you know, everybody in the room, about 60 people, running this 2-day permaculture design, you're going through the same steps you do with your own property design workshop. And this is our rough draw out of the design. And then over the next weekends and through the next months, they implement it together. This, you know, organised, just hand it back again. But yeah, the key thing about this was how did they remediate the soils? And micro-remediation, mushroom uptake, oyster mushrooms with manure and wood chips and and they had it, I think it was with Victoria University researcher in that sort of systems, and measured and records kept. And as far as I know, I really want to follow it up. Charlie, can you help me remember, please, when we go through Wellington, follow up what happened about that, because I know that they'd reduced by 50% when I last heard, was something like 10 years ago, that contamination, I didn't say, DDT in the soil. So yeah, remember Paul Stammett's Mycelium Running, those books will give you the guide. Next. Yep, this is a different concept of community gardens and I love it. It's a group of families, friends, or they become friends or enemies afterwards, I don't know, during the time they're giving it. This is my colleague Sol Morgan, started it out, and he's a permaculturist, organic grower and educator. And so they had some expertise, but they called themselves Fertile Ground. And there is 7 households. They go once a week on a Monday in the morning, and they dedicate that Monday to it, and they garden together. Again, staple crops primarily. They go as far as they grow a cash crop of garlic, and the rest of it's for them. And they have specialists, and they rotate their specialists. So someone's takes care of the compost, some's the seeds and seedlings, someone else will take care of the soil fertility and the pest management, like that. And yeah, this so works. And every week they take home a barrow load or whatever they've got that week of veggies that they harvest that week. And if you don't show up, you don't get your veggies that week. There's a few, you know, incentives and disincentives. Next. Yeah, really cool. Oh, I forgot to say the land is leased, but not leased with money. The land is leased by giving back veggies to the landowner, and the landowner takes care of turning on the sprinklers. So there's that, they don't have to live there. Okay, number 3, schools as edible landscapes. Yeah, so next, or school grounds as edible landscapes. This is one of my favorite areas of work. I didn't say when I did my korero about, you know, going up to 1989, and that's where like my permaculture life through the microphone stopped there this morning, but I didn't say that it's just like since I started working with permaculture, and Bill Moulton gave me the kick in the butt, and I started gradually and build up, it's just gone like that. And now working with permaculture in schools, permaculture design in school grants is always participatory, working with eco-village design, working with urban property design, everything. It's just like, such a fulfilling way of life and an income earning. All right, next. So just taking you a little bit through the steps. So we start at every level of the stages of children with permaculture design. The little ones using glove puppets and song and walking and observing and body movement, all that, to the older ones who pretty much can do what we do in a design course, but with simpler materials. So I use a lot with models of the grounds, and there's my icons again. Next. And the children are the ones who gets the client interview, and they put in what. Then the design, I've moved some steps out of here, but then the designs consents with adult, child, adult, parent, child, and teacher combination. that we look and we collectively decide what and where. Then we have these materials like the stakes to put in and the ropes, and this is all part of maths and it's all part of artistry. Next, and then we do the design layout and we implement the design with parents and adults and in the background as well. And then we grow and harvest. And I just want to share with this, don't ever underestimate. Like, I was in Brazil and I was in Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina and Bahia, all those provinces. And my colleagues there, we need to meet with the education department to get the teacher release time off of school so they could come to 5 days within a school, a pilot school, an educational learning. And in the morning we did the methodology. In the afternoon they all went out into classes and worked with the kids. And so we were just bringing it up like that. And after the first time it happened, the word got out and the education department, one province, sent something to that, and they actually gave us whatever we wanted. You know, here comes, oh, the kids wanted a sand pit. The truck rolls up full of sand and boards and stuff like that and seeds. And because we just pushed the edge at one place and, you know, you use that as collateral to get the goodies at another. Next, Charlie. Okay. The next one I've chosen out of this mandala, and I'll just show you, there it is there, securing our seed sources. And we have, bioregional seed banks and seed nurseries and seed swaps, and it's not nearly enough in this country. Next. Okay, this was ages ago. I haven't found a better one since. So this is the early 1900s, and 80 years later, we have an example of decline of varieties. So we have here, let's just take squash. We have 341 varieties of squash, and way back in 80 years before 1983, so at the turn of the century, and we follow that trail down, and we have now 40. Sweet corn, 307. We follow the trail down, 12. Cabbage, 544, 28. So that is an old stats. And now it's much more severe as agribusinesses increased, as seed companies have swallowed up small family seed businesses, and as genetic engineer has put terminator genes in their technology, etc. So that's more severe. So seed saving, the absolute pulse of life, is essential. Next, Charlie. Okay, so we have seed exchanges, and let's just check in the room. Who has seed exchanges in their local area or bioregion, something like that? Yeah, so just about everybody. So nothing new. Next. And seed kaitiaki, or the kaitiaki of, it could be not just seeds, but plant materials themselves. And this is the land's property in the Hokianga, and you have the kaitiaki of kumara and maize, or particularly the kangama, and also I think there's another one. There's the two main ones, and they were the original, and I think probably a year ago ceased, and it's changed to another system, but they were the suppliers of those crops to Koinga Garden. So they were keeping the strains pure, they're keeping the strains diverse. And so that's what I was encouraging you to be, a kaitiaki of a staple of a crop in your own garden, to really maintain that genetic diversity and the genetic strength. Next.
Robina.
Hi. Where?
Yeah. Good, mate. Just on that, I've been really learning a lot about the diversity of the plants that we all have, and people learn about, you know, all the different kinds of, say, corn. I want to grow them all. But what you just said there about being a kaitiaki of the one type.
Not just one, but it depends. If you're a Leo like you are, you're called Leo, right?
Yeah.
Every Leo would be having about 20, because that's the nature of Leos.
But here's the thing of growing and actually learning how to communicate more clearly, is that it's not about growing them all in one garden, because then they can cross.
Yeah.
necessarily bad, but we do really want the diversity, so that there's resilience. But like this thing of looking after a strain. I have some varieties of things that I'm now really fond of, and I try and grow them, and I try and keep them uncrossed so I can pass them on to people. But I think that's really, really key. Is like, we used to have 300 and something varieties of squash, not because it's great to grow that many in one garden, but because that many means that if a disease comes along, we're resilient. Some of those won't hit it, and it's just that cool thing of amazing to have so many, but find what speaks to you really. Really well.
And what grows well in your climatic region, and your particular property, in fact. And the other part of that is that when the seed variety has been diminishing, particularly by agribusiness and multinational corporation takeover of the seeds, then they are breeding what's uniform, what ripens at the uniform time, what's got a good shelf life, and all that. They're not breeding for necessarily taste, breeding for look and for resilience. So that's the key thing. Next, Charlie, thanks. And this is maize diversity. So, for example, we've made a series of films. Earth Care Education Aotearoa Localising Food Project. Go on there, we'll have it up at the end. Has made a series of films. One is about permaculture and food growing in schools and schools around the country. It's how it's really inspiring. There's a sequel of 4. And the other one is SOS Save Our Seeds, about the methods of community seed saving and seed exchanging and so on. And then the other one is hands-on seed saving. And the hands-on seed saving, it shares about how the ones you can save because they're true to type, they're self-fertile and so on, they're not going to cross. And the types of crops, like maize is one of them, that it's gonna cross, and so is pumpkin or the cucurbitae. So knowing those things is pretty important. Next. Okay, so this dovetails the seed theme with the schools theme. I actually just want to, right now, I realize the time. We started a wee bit late, and we're probably going to go over 10 minutes. Start here. I've just got a pass around sheet because I want to give you this. If those of you might want it, this is community food sovereignty. It's on this is a A3, but it's on one A4 sheet. It's all of this in linear form on one A4 sheet. And what and I'll give you also the link to the films in this by sending it out to you guys on there. So what I came to the conclusion of all these categories and the subheadings, that if in a bioregion you have a couple of these of each category happening, you're well on the way to being food sovereign. The more you have, the more food types to take your food sovereign system is. One of them is school seed banks. And this is these kids' seed bank. Next. We started out by going around and with our mother seed bank around New Zealand when we were going with the Localising Food Project, and we were distributing seeds. And the most favorite one for all the kids in all the schools was Susie Lee's strawberry popcorn. So you'll see that. Yeah. And so the kids would take from my mother's seed bank, then they'd make their own seed packets, and then they'd grow out those seeds, and some of them were successes and some of them were not. Next. And the strawberry popcorn won the day. So crop swaps. Who's got a crop swap in their area? Gosh, that's lots. So it wasn't even a term barely when I remember going to, it was Whakatane, and I heard the word crop swap for the first time. Maybe some of your crop swaps are older, but this was back in 2013, and I hadn't heard that term. And now crop swaps are just the norm. Eh? Next. Say again? Oh, cool. Thank you. And wild harvest. So another category is wild harvest here. And I've got here local gleaning co-ops, wild game hunting, kai moana gathering and fishing, wild herbs, weed foraging, honey harvesting, beverage ingredients, local waters and food foresting maps, and bioregional seasonal harvest calendars. It's all about wild harvest. So the key is not just to take and, you know, keep secret your wild harvest areas, but to actually replenish. Take your mushroom spores and like this, take your asparagus crowns and plant, take your berries, you know, maybe even blueberries or gooseberries, but not the ones that are going to go rampant along the ground, and put those in in an area that's a good area, that's kind of a safe, uncontaminated area. That guy has got rapo sticks. You can eat the ends. Next. Okay, and next. Yep. So wildlife corridors connecting households. We think about wildlife corridors as for maybe birds or habitat for nesting birds and critters, but they also can be a wildlife corridor of a food forest. This is Ted and Gretchen's place in number 19 North Street again. Wildlife corridors, next. Linking their neighbours across Nelson. I mean, it didn't go across the whole of Nelson, but it's moving. Seasonal calendars for supporting nature. So this is the wonderful Waitakere City Council that used to have such a, from my understanding, a conscience about community. They put, and no longer existing, they put together these native trees for the food for the wood pigeon and native trees for the tui. And this whole seasonal cycle year round of bird nectar and seed and berry food for birds. And so that's, in terms of seasonal calendars, that's kind of a good start place. Next, Charlie. Because it's providing, and then doing our seasonal calendars for our own bioregion. So usually in a workshop, which is a 2-day workshop, we usually end up with at least 2 types of seasonal calendars, usually wild harvest and something else, sometimes more. Next. And then the aim with, we're in community food culture now, community food culture over there, is seasonal crop festival. And friends of mine in Motueka started the Feijoa festival, because that's one of our seasonal crops that anybody can grow, and a lot of varieties and stuff like that. And everything Feijoa. You know, you have the thing with the apples dangling down the string and try and they bob around. Well, they have Feijoas doing that. And then you make whatever you can next out of Feijoas. Like, for example, Waiheke Island's Great Plum Drive, you know, go around on a particular day, hire the local hall, bring pots and bring burners and bring jars and things like that. And then everybody together makes the Waiheke Island plum jam, and great way to connect people. So whatever is surplus. And I just want to say about Waiheke, both with wine and with what you call olive oil, it's a collective thing. It's like people have got a certain amount in each, not each, but they've got a lot of distribution of small amounts of grapes and small amounts of olives, enabling the whole wine and a whole wine label and a whole olive label. Next. Canterbury, wild food foraging tours. So through the year, there's various kinds of tours, and this is a bicycle tour at the time when urban forage cycle tour, and they are, I think, at that time collecting mushrooms. So it's with people who know their area, who are really passionate about a particular crop or a particular activity, and putting it together. It's in the tourist calendar. It brings in a bit of money. Project Littleton is blooming awesome what they do. Next. And the last one I've got here, I put this together for our Golden Bay Food Resilience Hui. And they said, of all the places you've been, which do you think has got the most spread, or like the most of these kind of things, in to move towards food sovereignty? It could be food resilience now, but move towards. And I said, I think Tarawhiti. in the Gisborne region. And so I mind mapped it from what I had. Anyone live there? Hey, so you might be able to add to it, or you might be able to correct it. But I mind map it, and I don't count it right now, but there must be about 12, 13 things on here. And a key thing is their Rural Studies Unit, Tarewhiti Polytech. They do a lot in the wider community. Even Charlie and myself, we were there. We went to learn from a kaumātua about different ways of harvesting kumara and planting, and it was like so much of the whakapapa of the kumara. I just felt so privileged, and they just bring that in to their wider community. And they have the Kai Rescue, they have the Kite Kai meal kits and cooking classes, practical workshops. The Environment Centre has heaps going on, farmers markets, crop swap, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, you know, as many of these ways of meeting Kai security, resilience, and sovereignty strengthens your area. Like, I would be interested to know if Gisborne got cut off completely and these things were all activated and the transport system was sorted, you know, how they'd stand up, because I was really impressed with what I saw. And but a lot of community development strengths in there. Next, Shelley. Just the last one here is some of the various workshops that I have run in the past. And that little thing that's going around there, it's for you. But if you're interested to have a food sovereignty or resilience workshop in your area, come and chat with me over the hui. And the other one is I'm putting together a manual, slow going, but next year I'll have it done, which is a food sovereignty facilitators manual with all of these tools in it and all these icons, images, and everything like that. And yep, last. And I'd love to have, that's our website, and you can access the videos from there, and also you can access them just through YouTube, the Closing Food Project. And then I've got some whakataku coming up in a minute, and I'm going to ask for 3 people, one to read one that looks like to be your favorite. And so get ready. So are you ready? Go, Charlie. Press next.
Go.
I don't know if you can read it, but come up closer if you can't. It's in Te Reo with the English translation, and this is all whakataki that are connected with growing and seasonal cycles. So who's going to be the courageous one? Let's start with you, Leo, because you're always the courageous one.
The screen. Yeah. Right there. From
In any which one?
Go down. Papatuanaku te mata o tangata.
And
Earth is the mother of people.
okay, somebody else. So let's read it one more time, please.
Papatuanaku te mata o tangata.
The earth is the mother of the people. Just take these in. Yeah. Somebody else. You? Yeah. And one more. Thank you. So that's the end of my presentation, taking you across like little stepping stones around the country and some of the principles that stand behind Kai sovereignty and some of the methodology that gets used. And yeah, thank you for showing up. It's a big group. I think I didn't have much competition. I just thank you. Oh wow. Yeah. So you're welcome to come and have a look at the resources or things like that. And I've got a few cards actually, if anyone does want to have a workshop. I've got some cards I'll just put out here too. I think I've got them here. Oh yeah. Oh good God, I didn't even have the posters here. They're on the table, and the registration desk. They're on the table, and we run a 19-day. I think it's the only residential one in the country now, and it's in February in Golden Bay. 19-day. We've been running it forever, and then it's also running that as the first module of the one at Sustainable Living Centre in Golden Bay, which the first part is residential hours, and then the next part is organic growing and health and earth building. So that's a 13-week whole duration, and you can do any of those modules. So grab a flyer off the table in the registry desk.
I have the privilege of picking when I remember for Robina. And this resource, finding out what you have in your local area, is one of the most powerful things. It's relatively.
Actually, what I think I'll do, I'll just think about it a wee bit, but if you sign on the thing, if you can take WeTransfer, anybody can have the technology of WeTransfer. You just get sent an email and they say click, and then you download. I can send this as a PDF, the PowerPoint, through WeTransfer to you. Then you can kind of mull on some of them, or if something just really stood out to you, you can show somebody in your organization and they might fund you or something. I don't know. Yeah, it'd be really cool to do that. Yeah. Cool.